Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to complete your design principles task, which is you going to try and explore the design principles to create 8 different alternatives for your existing digital logo design. So what we want is something in the end that looks like this. What we need to do first, we first need to set up our page. So I've got a blank A3 document. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create just a solid outline with no fill to create a rectangle like so. You can gauge the size, and I'm going to copy that 4 times for our top 4 design principles. I'm going to arrange that so it's nice and even, and I'm going to copy and paste those right underneath. So now I have 8 even sized places for my designs to go, and I've left space underneath to complete my annotations, because you can see in the example there are annotations that have been completed and they've been typed, so you can do it that method as well. So the easiest thing to do is you don't have to redraw your logo. What you simply need to do is you need to open it up like so. You'll select all the features of that design, you'll copy it, so you can go to edit, you can go to copy, go to your untitled 1 document, and on the same layer you can paste. Now that I've got all these grouped elements together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize it like so it fits into at least one of these. And what I'm then going to do, just to make it a lot easier on myself, is I'm simply just going to copy and paste this like so, using the Control and Alt feature into every single area. And the reason I'm going to do this is because it's going to make the work for me a lot easier to do, because I have to explore 8 different design principles. So I'm going to start with our first one. We can see on our example that you've been provided that we're going to start with Figureground. I clearly want my logo to be the clear figure. I could do something simple and make a black background like this, and therefore making my logo stand out, but I'm going to go in a bit more depth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my text in vibrant pink, and instead I'm going to make my background, so this splat, a shade of gray, and I might do the same for these apple slices. So I want to make sure I'm selecting them. You can see that they've been grouped together previously, so I can change the color of them. The only issue is that it's going to change both of them, but I wanted to keep it like that actually, because it actually draws attention away from the apples and more to the text. Might do the same for all these other features. We use the eyedropper tool to reselect that gray to keep it consistent. I can see that my text is getting in the way of me selecting those slices, so I'm going to move it just briefly, select these last slices, and using the eyedropper tool, because they're all selected, I can simply press the gray and it transfers it over to what I've selected. I'm then going to drag that zest back, place it like so. I might even, no, I'm just going to leave it exactly as it is. So you can see that because I've made the background gray and I've kept this pink, I've got a clear sense of Figureground. My text is my figure, and then the gray has now become my background. It's a little less appealing, yes, than my yellow one, but I want to represent that principle just for now. I can come back and change that design later on, but I've got a clear sense of Figureground shown. I might even select it all, minusing the border, and resize it so it's a little bit larger in my space. Use up my space as best as I can. And that looks pretty cool. All right, our next design principle is balance. Now, there are 2 kinds of balance, as we know. There is symmetrical and there's asymmetrical. This design is already asymmetrical. I want to try and keep it in a similar fashion, or I might also try and keep it in the opposite fashion where it's going to be symmetrical now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my text out of the way. I'm going to keep my text pretty consistent across my designs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this splatter to make it a lot smaller. And what I'm going to then do is I'm going to copy and paste it like so. And by right-clicking and then going transform, there's an option that says reflect. I click that. Make sure it's vertical, then hit OK. And I'm going to position that so it's roughly mirroring that splatter. So now these 2 are pretty much balanced symmetrically. I'm going to move them out of the way again. I'm going to delete majority of these slices. Not my border. I'm going to delete the slices. All but one. And by doing so, I can then position them so they're a little bit more evenly. So I'm going to grab one slice. I'm going to place it down here. I'm going to grab another. I'm going to copy and paste this one. Place it over here. And I'm going to paste one more, I reckon, just here, rotated like so. I'm then going to select all three of them. So again, use my selection tool, my black arrow, click one, hold down shift, click the others. And what I'm then going to do, by holding down Control and Alt, I'm going to drag them across. And using that same feature, right click, transform, reflect, making sure it's vertical and here, okay. I'm going to place them in a similar position so that they look like mirrored opposites. So right now, they look pretty symmetrical. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to place my Zest logo over the top. And I'm actually going to resize it. Might need to resize the text because it's still text. Resize my text. Readjust my strokes and make it more legible. And I'm going to place that more center. Like so. And we can see now I've created a really balanced logo. I've gone from asymmetrical to symmetrical. Let's move on to the next one, which is contrast. So I need to create a sense of contrast in my design. In the original, I've kept it pretty harmonious. It's got a pretty warm color scheme. What I could do to explore contrast more greatly, I could change the color of this splat to something more contrasting like a blue, which will really stand against that pink. But it might clash too much and I might need to then adjust the pink to be something more neutral like a yellow. And I'm going to readjust that. And we can see now there's a real clear sense of contrast. I might need to change those apple slices to show that off a little bit more. And what I might do, just for the sake of trying something out, I might change my background of my square to be black to see how that really stands out. And that's a real clear sense of contrast now. We can see how the black really brings out those colors, but also how the yellow is working really well against that blue. I could then go back and change certain parts of my apple peel. I could choose a color that contrasts really well with blue. Red's pretty good, but you could choose something more consistent with the type, like an orange or a dark orange, like so. And you could apply that to all the pieces in your design and create a real sense of contrast. Contrast could also be in relation to scale or imagery that you've used. So you could replace these apple slices with real pictures of apple slices and have a consistent sense of contrast between these flat vectors and real life imagery. So that's one way you can go about creating contrast. The next design principle is cropping. This one's a little bit more interesting. So what I might do is I might separate my elements like so. So I might drag them apart. And what I might do is I might take this splatter and I might imagine that the black border is going to dictate how what the actual frame is for my logo. So I'm going to arrange that and send it to the back, and we can see where that black line's cutting off. We have to imagine that's where the design is getting cut off. And what you can do to actually show that is if you use just a plain white square with no outline, you can then draw a rectangle over certain features like so, and that'll crop that out. And you can do that for each side. There are probably more efficient ways of doing this, and you can figure it out yourself if you'd like. I'm just trying to work quickly to show you guys one method of doing it. And I'm finally going to do it on this side here. Might resize that a little bit. Cool. So we can see I've effectively applied cropping to that splatter. And what I can then do is I can move and resize these apple slices a little bit. Create a really interesting effect with different sizes of apple slices. I might even make more of them to create a more interesting and engaging look. I could also change the color of these slices to be a different fruit. I could change them to green so they're limes, and that could make a really interesting effect. In fact, I think I might do that just to experiment and see what it'll look like. So I'm going to select all these apple slices. And to make them a little bit different, I'm going to make them all green. Maybe a little lighter. Yeah, that seems cool. Awesome. So now they're looking a little bit different. A little bit more engaging. Excellent. And what I can then do is I'll take my text last and I'm going to make these shapes. So I'm going to right click my text and press create outlines. That then turns my text into a shape so I can position it a little bit differently. I'm going to position it across like so. And I might even place the zest a little bit off center. Cool, so we can see I've already created 4 interesting designs that are all pretty consistent in style, but also different in how they have explored a different design principle each.